Captain Kim Dae-ho stood on the observation deck of the Colonial Defense Station, watching the sunrise paint New Eden's sky in shades of gold and purple. The planet's twin moons were setting behind the mountain range where his wife worked at, the medical research facility. After 15 years on this world, he still found the view breathtaking. "Another quiet morning, Captain," said Lieutenant Park Jun-kai, joining him with 2 cups of coffee. The young officer had been born on New Eden and knew no other home. Dae-ho accepted the coffee gratefully. "Quiet is good, Lieutenant. Quiet means our families sleep safely." Beyond the station's windows, the colony sprawled across the fertile valley. 50,000 people called New Eden home now. Children ran through streets lined with earth trees that had taken decades to adapt to the alien soil. Farmers worked fields that fed not just the colony, but 3 other human worlds. The massive fusion plant that engineer Lee Tae-min designed provided clean energy for the entire system. "Sir, we're getting some strange readings on the deep space sensors," called Commander Yoon Ha-na from the communications center. Her voice carried a note of concern that made Dae-ho set down his coffee. "What kind of readings?" Dae-ho asked, moving to her station. Ha-na frowned at her screens. "Multiple contacts, very large, coming from outside the system. They're not responding to our standard greeting signals." Dae-ho felt a cold knot form in his stomach. New Eden was far from the main shipping lanes. Very few ships came here without advance notice. "How large?" he asked. "Sir, if these readings are correct, we're looking at ships bigger than anything in the human fleet. Much bigger." The captain activated the colony-wide communication system. "All defense personnel to stations. This is not a drill, civilian emergency." Protocols are now in effect. Across New Eden, people stopped what they were doing. Parents gathered their children. Emergency sirens began to wail across the settlements. Dr. Park Mi-young, Dae-ho's wife, was in the middle of surgery when the alert reached the medical center. "Doctor, we need to prepare for possible casualties," her assistant said. Worry clear in his voice. Mi-young nodded, though her hands never stopped moving as she worked to save her patient. "Finish this operation first, then we follow emergency procedures." At the engineering complex, Lee Tae-min was running diagnostics on the fusion reactor when his assistant burst into the control room. "Sir, they're ordering all technical personnel to standby positions." Tae-min looked at the massive reactor that powered their world. "If something happens to the colony, we need to be ready to protect this facility. It's the heart of everything we've built here." The defense station's sensors continued tracking the approaching ships. What they saw defied belief. 12 massive vessels, each one larger than New Eden's main city, moved through space with purpose and speed that no human ship could match. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Ha-na reported. "It's not in any human language." "Put it through the translation system," Dae-ho ordered. The alien voice that filled the command center was cold and mechanical. "Human settlement designated for resource extraction. Evacuate atmosphere-breathing creatures within 6 standard time units. Resistance will result in immediate termination." Silence fell over the command center. Lieutenant Jun-ki was the first to speak. "6 hours? Sir, we can't evacuate 50,000 people in 6 hours." Dae-ho activated the colony's emergency broadcast system. His voice reached every home, every workplace, every corner of New Eden. "Citizens of New Eden, this is Captain Kim Dae-ho. We are facing an immediate threat from unknown alien forces. All civilians must proceed to the underground shelters immediately. Take only what you can carry. Move quickly, but do not panic. Our defense forces will buy you as much time as possible." Across the colony, families grabbed emergency packs and ran for the shelter entrances. Parents carried crying children. Elderly residents helped each other down the metal stairs into the reinforced bunkers that had been built for asteroid strikes, not alien attacks. Tae-min's twin daughters, So-min and So-jin, were at school when the evacuation began. Their teacher, Mrs. Kim Hae-won, gathered all 40 children in her class. "We're going on an adventure underground," she told them, keeping her voice calm despite her fear. Everyone hold hands and stay together. The children didn't understand the danger, but they could feel the fear of the adults around them. So Min, the braver of the twins, squeezed her sister's hand as they walked toward the shelter. At the medical center, Mi Young finished her surgery and began preparing the underground medical facility. We need all critical patients moved to the lower levels, she ordered her staff. Prepare for trauma cases. The alien ships entered New Eden's atmosphere like falling mountains. Their hulls were black metal that seemed to absorb light. Weapons ports along their sides glowed with energy that made the air itself burn. Daeho had 12 patrol ships under his command. They were designed to handle pirates and smugglers, not alien dreadnoughts. But he would not let New Eden die without. A fight! All ships, launch immediately, he ordered. Target their weapon systems. Make them work for every life they take. The patrol ships rose from their landing pads like angry wasps, their missiles and energy weapons blazing against the alien hulls. For a few moments, it seemed they might do some damage. Several alien ships showed scorch marks where human weapons struck. Then the aliens returned fire. The first patrol ship simply vanished in a ball of white fire. The second broke apart as alien beams cut through its armor like paper. Within minutes, 11 of Daeho's 12 ships were destroyed. Lieutenant Jun-Ki piloted the last remaining ship, damaged and barely flying. Captain, I can't maintain altitude much longer. Get back to base, Lieutenant. You've done enough. But Jun-Ki had other plans. He turned his failing ship toward the largest alien vessel and pushed his engines to maximum power. For New Eden! He shouted as his ship struck the alien hull and exploded. The alien ship shuddered but continued its attack. Jun-Ki's sacrifice had bought them perhaps 10 more minutes. In the underground shelters, families huddled together as the sounds of destruction echoed from above. The lights flickered each time an explosion shook the ground. Children cried while parents tried to comfort them with lies about everything being okay. Taemin made a decision that would haunt his final moments. The fusion reactor could be overloaded. The resulting electromagnetic pulse would disable any ships in the atmosphere, but it would also destroy New Eden's life support systems. Sir, if you do this, everyone in the shelters will die slowly instead. Of quickly, his assistant warned. Maybe, Taemin said, beginning the overload sequence. But maybe it will give Earth time to prepare. Maybe our deaths will mean something. The alien bombardment turned the surface of New Eden into burning wasteland. The cities where children had played became craters of molten glass. The farms that had fed 3 worlds became radioactive ash. In the command bunker, Hana maintained contact with Earth as long as possible. Her fingers trembling, she spoke into her microphone as the ceiling began to crack above her. Earth Command, this is New Eden Control. The colony is lost. 50,000 civilians dead or dying. Unknown alien force with superior technology. They call us pests. The ceiling collapsed, burying the communication center in concrete. And steel, Taemin's overload sequence completed just as alien soldiers broke into the engineering complex. The fusion reactor went critical, sending an electromagnetic wave across the planet. Several alien ships crashed as their systems failed, but the damage was done. In the medical shelter, Mi Young held the hand of a dying child as the air recycling systems failed. Sleep now, she whispered. Your parents are waiting for you. The last transmission from New Eden was Hana's final message, broadcast on all frequencies as her shelter's power failed. Remember us. Make them pay. By the time the alien ships departed, New Eden was silent. No human voices called across the communication networks. No children laughed in the playgrounds. No families gathered for evening meals. The aliens had efficiently strip-mined the planet's resources and moved on to their next target. To them, it had been a routine operation. They had eliminated a pest infestation and extracted valuable materials. They had no idea they had just signed their own death warrant. The cold stars looked down on New Eden's corpse, and in the darkness between worlds, the news of the colonies. Destruction began its journey toward Earth. 50,000 lives had ended in a single day, but their deaths would light a fire that would burn across the galaxy. The Vorth Empire had made their first and final mistake. They had shown humanity what they were capable of, and soon humanity would return the favor with interest. The news reached Earth on a Tuesday morning that would be remembered forever. Admiral Choi Sung-min was reviewing fleet deployment reports in his office at Terra Command when his aide burst through the door without knocking. Captain Lee Jun-ho's face was white with shock. "Sir, we just received an emergency transmission from the New Eden system," Jun-ho said, his voice barely steady. "The colony is gone." Sung-min set down his coffee cup slowly. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" "Destroyed. Sir, completely. 50,000 dead." The Admiral felt the blood drain from his face. His daughter lived on New Eden, had lived on New Eden. "Show me everything." The recorded transmission played on the main screen. Commander Hana's voice, distorted by static and fear, told the story of New Eden's final hours. The room grew cold as the Admiral watched sensor data showing 12 massive alien ships reducing a human world to ash. "Sir, there's more," Jun-ho said quietly. "The aliens sent their own message. It was broadcast on all frequencies as they left the system." The alien voice filled the room, cold and emotionless. "Species designation, human. Classification, pest. Standard extermination protocols applied. Resistance noted and deemed insignificant. Further colonies will be processed as resources permit." Sung-min stood in silence for a long moment. Then he activated his emergency communicator. "This is Admiral Choi Sung-min. I need immediate contact with President Nam Il-sung. Code Black authorization. Now." Across Earth's government complex, emergency sessions began within the hour. President Nam sat at the head of the crisis table, surrounded by military leaders, scientists, and intelligence officials. The recording from New Eden played again and again as officials tried to process what they were seeing. General Bae Jin-woo slammed his fist on the table. "They killed children, 50,000 civilians, including families, and they call us pests." "What do we know about these aliens?" President Nam asked. Dr. Shin Yoon-ji, head of the research division, pulled up her analysis. "Based on the wreckage we're detecting from New Eden, we're dealing with technology at least 50 years ahead of ours. They call themselves the Vorth Empire. Our deep space monitoring stations have been tracking their expansion for months, but we thought they were just another trading civilization." "Trading civilization?" General Jin-woo's voice was harsh. "They exterminate entire worlds." "The transmission mentions they've done this before," President Nam said quietly. "How many other species have they wiped out?" Intelligence Director Park, Young-soo opened a classified file. "Our analysis suggests at least 14 other civilizations in the past century. They follow the same pattern. Arrive, demand evacuation, then strip mine the planet for resources." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity was facing an enemy that had perfected genocide. "What are our military options?" President Nam asked. General Jin-woo activated a holographic display showing human space. "We have the Colonial Defense Fleet scattered across 47 systems. Combined, we're looking at 3,000 ships of various classes. But, sir, based on what we saw at New Eden, we're outgunned and outclassed." "Then we change the rules," Admiral Sung-min said, speaking for the first time since the briefing began. "They want to exterminate us like pests? Then we show them what happens when pests fight back." Dr. Yoon-ji leaned forward. "Admiral, with respect, human technology will improve," Sung-min interrupted. "Human courage and human anger, those are already superior to anything these aliens possess. I'm requesting full authorization for Total War Protocol." President Nam had read about Total War Protocol in historical documents. It had never been implemented. It meant the complete mobilization of human civilization for warfare. Every resource, every person, every world committed to a single purpose, victory or extinction. The cost will be enormous, the president said. The cost of losing will be higher, Sung Min replied. They've shown us their intentions. 50,000 people learned what surrender means to the Fourth Empire. Captain Ko Young-sik entered the briefing room carrying a sealed case. As head of special operations, his presence meant the discussion was about to turn very dark indeed. Sir, we've been monitoring Vorth communications since the attack, Young-sik reported. They're planning to hit 3 more human colonies within the month. They consider us a minor inconvenience. How many humans live on those 3 worlds? President Nam asked. 200,000, sir. The room erupted in angry voices until President Nam raised his hand for silence. General Jin Woo, how quickly can you mobilize the entire Marine Corps? Full mobilization? 6 months, sir. But for rapid deployment of elite units, I can have 10,000 Marines ready for deep space operations within 2 weeks. Dr. Yunji, I'm giving you unlimited funding and personnel. I want every scientist, every engineer, every technician working on one project, figuring out how to kill these aliens efficiently. Sir, we'll need alien technology to study. Captain Young-sik will get you alien technology, the president said grimly. Won't you, Captain? Young-sik nodded. Yes, sir. I'll bring you live specimens if possible. Admiral Sung Min activated the emergency mobilization protocols. Across human space, reserve fleets received activation orders. Shipyards that had been building cargo vessels switched to military production. Mining colonies began extracting materials for weapons instead of trade goods. On Mars, the massive industrial complexes that had terraformed the planet redirected their output to military purposes. The orbital shipyards around Jupiter began constructing vessels designed for one purpose, delivering death to alien worlds. Dr. Yunji gathered her research teams in the secure laboratories beneath Terra Command. We're going to reverse engineer alien technology, and we're going to improve on it. I want weapons that will make the Vorth regret ever hearing the word human. Her teams worked without sleep, analyzing every piece of debris recovered from New Eden. The alien metal was incredibly strong but had specific resonance frequencies that could shatter it. Their energy weapons used principles human science hadn't discovered, but human engineers were fast learners. Captain Young-sik's special operations teams prepared for missions that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. Their job was simple. Capture Vorth ships and personnel by any means necessary. We're not bound by the usual rules of engagement, Young-sik told his teams. These aliens consider us animals. They don't expect us to fight smart, to fight dirty, or to fight with the kind of rage that only humans can manage. The first test came when Vorth ships approached the mining colony of Kepler Station. This time, humanity was ready. 3 Vorth. Dreadnoughts entered the system expecting another easy extermination. Instead, they found a trap. Admiral Sung Min had hidden his entire 5th Fleet in the asteroid field, using the miners' knowledge of the local space to set up the perfect ambush. The aliens sent their standard surrender demand. Admiral Sung Min's response was broadcast across human space. This is Admiral Choi Sung Min of the Terran Defense Fleet. My daughter died on New Eden. Her name was Choi Yun-hee. She was 7 years old. You will remember her name when you die. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Conventional weapons did little damage, but the concentrated firepower of 60 ships managed to disable 1 Vorth vessel. Captain Young-sik's boarding teams hit the crippled ship before the aliens could destroy it. What they found inside changed everything. The Vorth were not the advanced civilization they pretended to be. They were scavengers, using technology stolen from dozens of extinct species. Their own innovation was limited, but they had perfected the art of stealing and adapting what others created. More importantly, Young Six teams discovered the Vorth's greatest weakness. They were utterly dependent on their central command network. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier was connected to a hive mind communication system. Disrupt that system, and individual. Vorth became confused and helpless. Dr. Yunji's teams worked frantically to develop countermeasures. If they could hack the Vorth network, they could turn the aliens' greatest strength into their greatest vulnerability. President Nam addressed the combined human worlds in a speech that would echo through history. Citizens of humanity, we face an enemy that sees us as nothing more than insects to be exterminated. They have shown us no mercy, so we will show them none in return. Today, I authorize the largest military operation in human history. We will not simply defend ourselves. We will hunt down every Vorth ship, every Vorth world, every Vorth life, until they are nothing but a memory. They wanted to exterminate humanity. Instead, we will teach the galaxy what humans do to those who threaten our children. Across human space, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Civilian factories retooled for military production. Scientists abandoned their research to work on weapons projects. Children in schools began learning Vorth anatomy alongside mathematics. The message was clear. Humanity had been pushed beyond its breaking point, and something new was emerging from that darkness. Something that would make the Vorth Empire regret. Every human life they had taken, Admiral Sung Min stood before the massive fleet assembling near Earth. 3,000 ships, with more joining every day. Millions of humans, united by grief and rage, preparing to show the galaxy what their species was truly capable of. 1 year after New Eden died, the human fleet struck its first target. Captain Lim Jae-sung stood on the bridge of the dreadnought New Eden's Vengeance, watching the Vorth mining station grow larger on his screens. The massive alien facility orbited, a dead world, stripping away its mineral wealth with the same cold efficiency they had used to murder 50,000 humans. "Sir, we're detecting approximately 2,000 Vorth on the station," reported Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin from the tactical station. "Mix of military and civilian personnel." "Civilian?" Jae-sung's voice was ice cold. "There are no Vorth civilians. They're all part of the same hive mind that decided to exterminate New Eden." Behind him, Colonel Hwang So-ra checked her weapons, one final time. Her Marine assault teams had trained for this moment for 12 months. Every technique, every strategy, every piece of equipment was designed for one purpose: killing Vorth efficiently and completely. "Colonel, you know your orders," Jae-sung said without turning around. "Yes, sir. No survivors, no prisoners. Send a message." Lieutenant Kang Min-ho sat in the cockpit of his stealth fighter Ghost of Daeho, named after the fallen captain of New Eden. A small container of soil from the destroyed colony sat secured next to his flight controls, the only Earth that remained of the world where he had been born. "All fighters, this is Ghost Leader," Min-ho transmitted to his squadron. "Remember, we're not just fighting for victory today. We're fighting for everyone who can't fight anymore." The human fleet had changed in the year since New Eden's destruction. These weren't the same ships that had tried to protect human colonies with outdated weapons and defensive tactics. Dr. Shin Yoonji's research teams had revolutionized human technology using captured Vorth equipment. Human ships now carried weapons that could punch through alien armor like paper. Their shields used frequency disruption patterns that made Vorth energy weapons nearly useless. Most importantly, they carried signal jammers that could cut individual Vorth soldiers off from their hive mind network. "All ships, begin the attack," Admiral Sung Min ordered from the command vessel Terra's Fury. "Show them what happens when you wake up a sleeping giant." The human fleet opened fire with surgical precision. Unlike the desperate defense of New Eden, this was a carefully planned assault designed to cause maximum damage while preventing any Vorth ships from escaping to warn others. The Vorth mining station's defenses were impressive by the standards of most species. Energy barriers that could stop asteroids, weapons that could vaporize small ships, armor plating designed to resist centuries of wear in deep space. Against human ingenuity and human rage, they lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Captain Jae-sung watched as his ship's main guns tore through the station's defensive grid like it was made of paper. Target their communication arrays first. I want every Vorth on that station cut off from their network before we begin boarding operations. Sergeant Oh Hyun-woo led his demolitions team toward the station's structural weak points. His job was to ensure that when the humans were finished, nothing remained that could be salvaged or studied by other Vorth forces. Remember, we want this to look like what they did to our cities, Hyun-woo told his team over the radio. Complete destruction, no trace that humans were ever here. The Vorth defenders tried to mount resistance, but they faced something they had never encountered before. Humans who fought with the methodical efficiency of machines and the burning hatred of a species pushed beyond all limits. Colonel Soraz. Marines moved through the station's corridors like a plague. They had studied Vorth anatomy for months, learning exactly where to place shots for maximum suffering before death. They had practiced using Vorth civilians as shields, forcing military personnel to choose between protecting their own people and maintaining tactical positions. Section 7 secured, reported Corporal Lee Dong-hyun over the radio. Found a group of Vorth younglings hiding in a supply room. Eliminate them, Sora ordered without hesitation. They're not children. They're future soldiers in an enemy army. The sounds of weapons fire echoed through the station's corridors. But these weren't the quick, clean kills of professional soldiers. The Marines had learned to make Vorth deaths loud and terrifying, broadcasting the screams across alien communication networks to demoralize any listening Vorth forces. Lieutenant Minho's fighter squadron swept through space around the station, hunting down any Vorth ships trying to escape. His enhanced sensors, developed from captured alien technology, could track enemy vessels even when they tried to hide behind asteroids or debris. Ghost 3, I have a fleeing transport ship, radioed Lieutenant Park Da-yoon. Looks like it's carrying civilian refugees. Destroy it, Minho ordered. No one leaves. No one carries word of this attack to other Vorth forces. The transport ship exploded in a brief flash of light. Minho felt no satisfaction from the kill, only the cold certainty that he was preventing future human deaths. In the station's command center, Sergeant Hyun-woo placed his charges with artistic precision. The Vorth architecture was designed to be beautiful as well as functional, with flowing curves and graceful supports that reflected their aesthetic sensibilities. Hyun-woo's explosives would bring it all down in a pattern that spelled out New Eden when viewed from above. It would take exactly 50 seconds for the structure to collapse completely, 1 second for each 1,000 humans who had died. Commander Park Jin-young worked at her mobile command post, implementing psychological warfare tactics that would have been unthinkable before the war. Her teams had developed ways to hack into Vorth communication networks and insert chaos algorithms that caused individual aliens to experience emotions their hive mind had never felt. Terror, despair, and the horrible knowledge of approaching death. Sir, we're getting some interesting results from the psychological warfare protocols, Jin-young reported to Captain Jae-sung. Individual Vorth are breaking down when cut off from their network. They're experiencing what appears to be mental collapse. Good. Make sure we record everything. I want other Vorth forces to see what happens when they face humanity. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Vorth mining station was a twisted wreck floating in space. Its 2,000 inhabitants dead or dying in the vacuum. Human casualties, 0. But the humans weren't finished. Captain Jae-sung had studied the records of New Eden's destruction. The Vorth had taken 12 hours to completely sterilize the planet, ensuring that no trace of human civilization remained. He intended to return the favor. "Begin atmospheric bombardment of the planet's surface," he ordered. "I want every Vorth installation, every mining operation, every trace of their presence erased." The human fleet turned its weapons on the world below. Energy beams that could crack continents swept across the planet's surface. Fusion bombs detonated in precise patterns, creating firestorms that would burn for years. Lieutenant Minho led, his fighters in low-altitude strikes, hunting down individual Vorth vehicles and installations that had survived the orbital bombardment. His enhanced sensors could detect alien life signs hiding in underground shelters. "No survivors," he reminded his squadron as they swept across the burning landscape. "They showed no mercy to our children. We show none to theirs." When the bombardment was complete, the planet's surface was a radioactive wasteland. Nothing could survive there for centuries. The Vorth mining operation that had existed for decades was now indistinguishable from the barren rock they had been stripping for resources. Sergeant Hyun Woo's final explosive charges detonated in the station's core, sending chunks of alien architecture spinning into space. The pattern they formed was visible to any ship that passed through the system, a memorial written in twisted metal and debris. Admiral Sung Min studied the battle reports with grim satisfaction. The first strike against the Vorth Empire had exceeded all expectations. But more importantly, it had sent a message that would spread through alien space faster than any ship could travel. "Communications. I want this broadcast on all Vorth frequencies," the Admiral ordered. "Let every alien in their empire know what happened here." The message was simple and terrifying. "This is Admiral Choi Sung-min of the Terran Defense Fleet. You destroyed New Eden. You killed 50,000 humans, including children. This is what happens in return. We are coming for all of you. We will not stop. We will not show mercy. We will not accept surrender. Every world you have taken from others, every species you have exterminated, every life you have ended, we will balance the scales. Your empire dies today. It just doesn't know it yet." The human fleet departed the system, leaving behind only death and destruction. But they carried with them something more valuable than any military victory. Proof that the Vorth could be beaten, could be made to suffer, could be completely destroyed. News of the attack spread through human space like wildfire. On every human world, people gathered to watch the recorded footage of Vorth ships burning and alien installations collapsing. For the first time since New Eden's destruction, humanity had something to celebrate. But in the command centers and war rooms, military leaders were already planning the next attack. The Vorth Empire controlled hundreds of systems. Each one would burn. Each one would pay the price for New Eden's children. 2 years into the war, the Vorth Empire discovered what true fear meant. Admiral Ryu Seung-hwan earned his nickname the Butcher of Vorth Prime after the orbital bombardment of their most important colony world. He stood on the bridge of humanity's wrath, watching the alien planet burn beneath his feet. The operation had taken exactly 12 hours, the same amount of time the Vorth had needed to sterilize New Eden. "Sir, all surface installations have been eliminated," reported Commander Kim Hana from the weapons station. "No life signs remaining. Good. Begin atmospheric processing termination. I want this world uninhabitable for the next 1,000 years." The human fleet had perfected the art of planetary destruction. They called it the New Eden Protocol, complete atmospheric sterilization using the same techniques the Vorth had employed against human colonies. But where the aliens had done it for resources, humans did it for justice. Captain Anmi Sun led the New Eden Corps, military units composed entirely of relatives of the original colony's victims. Her brother had been a teacher on New Eden. Her parents had run a small farm in the Southern Valley. Now she commanded 3,000 soldiers who fought with a fury that unsettled even veteran Marines. "Target confirmed," Mi-soon reported as her forces surrounded a Vorth civilian shelter. "Approximately 500 aliens inside, including their equivalent of families." Proceed with extermination, Admiral Sung Hwan ordered. Remember, they chose to align themselves with a genocidal empire. Mi Sun's soldiers moved with mechanical precision. They had studied Vorth psychology for months, learning how to maximize fear and suffering before death. The aliens' hive mind nature meant that every scream, every moment of terror was shared across their entire species. Commander Park Jin-young's Psychological Warfare Division had achieved a breakthrough that changed the entire war. By introducing chaos algorithms into Vorth communication networks, they could force individual aliens to experience emotions their species had never evolved to handle. "Sir, we're getting reports from across Vorth space," Jin-young informed Admiral Sung Hwan. "Widespread mental breakdowns, suicide attempts, complete psychological collapse. Individual Vorth are losing connection to their hive mind and experiencing what appears to be existential terror. How many affected? Conservative estimate: 3 million Vorth across 12 systems have lost mental stability in the past month. Major Song Ki-tae worked in laboratories that would have horrified pre-war humanity. His bioweapons research had produced viruses specifically designed to target Vorth genetic markers. The pathogens spread through their atmospheric processors, turning their own terraforming technology into delivery systems for species-specific death. The latest strain shows 100% mortality rate among Vorth test subjects, Ki-tae reported to the Research Council. Incubation period of 6 days, then rapid cellular breakdown. More importantly, it's completely harmless to all known human-compatible life forms. Dr. Shin Yun-ji had become something she never thought possible, a scientist who designed tools of genocide with the same passion she had once applied to healing technologies. Deploy it on every Vorth world we can reach. Let their own terraforming efforts become the mechanism of their extinction. The war had changed humanity in ways that went beyond technology. Captain Lim Jae-sung now commanded a fleet of 50 ships, all bearing names of New Eden's dead. His orders were simple: find Vorth populations and eliminate them completely, efficiently, and publicly. "Sir, we're approaching the Vorth agricultural world of Kalex Prime," reported his navigation officer. "Intelligence estimates 7 million inhabitants." 7 million future soldiers, Jae-sung corrected. "Begin standard sterilization protocols." The human fleet had developed a signature method of planetary assault. First, they would jam all Vorth communications, cutting the planet off from the Empire's hive mind network. Then they would broadcast recordings of New Eden's destruction, forcing the aliens to experience individual fear as they watched their own approaching doom. Lieutenant Kang Min-ho led bombing runs that had become an art form of destruction. His fighters carried bombs designed not just to kill, but to create specific patterns of devastation that spelled out messages visible from orbit. "Ghost Squadron, target the civilian population centers first," Min-ho ordered. "I want the Vorth military to watch their families die before we come for them." The soil from New Eden still sat in his cockpit, a reminder of what he was fighting for. Every alien death brought him no satisfaction, only the cold knowledge that the scales of justice were slowly balancing. Sergeant Oh Hyun-woo had become an expert in Vorth architecture and psychology. His demolition patterns were designed to cause maximum psychological impact on any surviving Vorth forces. Buildings didn't just collapse, they fell in ways that created the screaming faces of human children, visible from space. "Charges set for simultaneous detonation," Hyun-woo reported as his team evacuated the Vorth capital city. "The pattern will take exactly 50 minutes to complete, 1 minute for each 1,000 New Eden casualties." Colonel Hwang So-ra's ground forces had developed techniques that pushed the boundaries of what had once been considered acceptable warfare. They used Vorth civilians as human shields, forcing military units to choose between protecting their own people and maintaining defensive positions. "Remember, we want survivors to tell others what happened here," So-ra told her Marines. "Fear is a weapon. Terror is a strategy. Make them understand that resistance only increases their suffering. The human forces had learned to broadcast their operations across Vorth communication networks. Every alien in their empire could watch as human soldiers systematically dismantled their civilization. The psychological impact was devastating. Major Kitei's bioweapons had evolved beyond simple killing tools. The latest viruses were designed to cause specific symptoms that mimicked the radiation poisoning suffered by New Eden's children. Vorth, who contracted the disease, would experience exactly the same slow, agonizing death that human families had endured. "We've confirmed deployment on 17 Vorth worlds," Kitei reported. "Estimated casualties will reach 15 million within the next month." More importantly, the fear of infection is causing panic evacuations across their empire. Admiral Sung Hwan studied the strategic map showing human progress through Vorth space. Red markers indicated sterilized worlds. Yellow showed planets under attack. Green marked targets for future operations. "How many Vorth worlds remain untouched?" he asked his intelligence staff. "Approximately 87 systems, sir, but many are showing signs of spontaneous evacuation as news of our operations spreads." "Good. Fear is more efficient than weapons. If they abandon their worlds without a fight, we can focus our efforts on the core systems." The Vorth Empire, which had once controlled hundreds of star systems and billions of lives, was collapsing under the systematic application of human warfare. Their fleets, designed to overpower primitive civilizations, proved inadequate against enemies who had spent 2 years studying their weaknesses. Captain An Mi-sun stood in the ruins of a Vorth nursery facility, watching her soldiers complete their grim work. The alien young had been eliminated quickly and efficiently, but their deaths had been broadcast across the Empire's communication network. "Sir, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 Vorth systems," her communications officer reported. "Standard response," Mi-sun ordered. "Tell them we remember New Eden. Tell them we remember what surrender meant to 50,000 human civilians." The surrender offers were always rejected. Humanity had learned that mercy was a luxury they could not afford against an enemy that had shown none to their children. Every Vorth world would burn. Every alien life would end. The scales of justice demanded nothing less. Commander Jin Young's psychological warfare had achieved results beyond all predictions. Vorth who survived. Human attacks often suffered complete mental breakdown, becoming unable to function even if they escaped physical damage. The Empire's hive mind, once their greatest strength, had become a weapon turned against them. "Sir, we're detecting mass suicide events on multiple Vorth worlds," Jin Young reported. "Entire populations are choosing death rather than face human." "Assault! Document everything," Admiral Sung Hwan ordered. "I want the galaxy to understand what happens when you try to exterminate humanity." Lieutenant Minho's fighter squadron swept through the ruins of another Vorth city, hunting down any survivors who might have escaped the initial bombardment. His sensors could detect alien life signs hiding in underground shelters or damaged buildings. "No survivors means no witnesses," he reminded his pilots. "No one carries word to other systems about our tactics or capabilities." The human war machine had become perfectly efficient at its task of Vorth extermination. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier was focused on a single goal: complete elimination of the species that had destroyed New Eden. Dr. Yoon-ji worked in laboratories that produced horrors beyond imagination, all in service of justice for the dead. Her latest creation was a nanovirus that could rewrite Vorth DNA, forcing their own biology to turn against them. The beauty of this approach, she explained to her research team, is that it uses their own cellular processes to cause death. They literally tear themselves apart from the inside. 3 years after New Eden's destruction, the human Armada reached the Vorth homeworld. Fleet Admiral Choi Sung-min stood on the command bridge of Terra's final judgment, looking down at the alien world that had spawned the species responsible for 50,000 human deaths. The planet was beautiful in its own way, with purple oceans and silver continents that gleamed under the light of its ancient star. It would all be gone within hours. "Sir, we're detecting massive defensive installations," reported Captain Lee. Jun-Ho. "Energy shields, orbital weapons platforms, defensive fleets numbering in the thousands." "It doesn't matter," Sung-min replied calmly. "We didn't come here to fight a battle. We came here to finish what they started." Behind the Admiral stood representatives of every human world, every family that had lost someone to Vorth aggression. This was not just a military operation, it was the final act of justice for an entire species. General Bei Jin-woo commanded the ground assault forces, though there would be little left to assault once the orbital bombardment was complete. His Marines waited in their transport ships, ready to document the Empire's final moments for the historical record. "All units report ready, sir," Jin-woo announced. "The New Eden Memorial Corps has requested the honor of placing the final charges." The New Eden Memorial Corps was composed of soldiers whose names matched those of the original colony's dead. Captain Kim Dae-ho II, named after the colony's fallen defender. Dr. Park Mi-young II, carrying on the name of the murdered medical officer. Engineer Lee Tae-min II, preparing to honor his namesake's sacrifice. Dr. Shin Yun-ji worked at her command station, making final preparations for humanity's ultimate weapon. The Star Killer device represented 3 years of research, engineering, and focused hatred distilled into a single instrument of cosmic justice. "Sir, the device is ready for deployment," Yun-ji reported. "Once activated, the chain reaction will consume the entire star system within 72 hours. "Will there be any trace left?" Admiral Sung-min asked. "None, sir. Complete molecular dissolution. Where the Vorth homeworld exists today, there will be only empty space." The human fleet spread throughout the system in perfect formation. 5,000 ships of war, representing the largest military force in human history. Every vessel carried weapons designed specifically for this moment, tested on dozens of Vorth colonies over the past 2 years. Lieutenant Kang Min-ho sat in his fighter Ghost of Dae-ho, the small container of New Eden soil still secured beside. His controls. He would be among the first to breach the Vorth homeworld's atmosphere, carrying with him the Earth of the dead colony. "Ghost Squadron, remember what we're fighting for," Min-ho transmitted to his pilots. "Every human child who will never grow up because of what happened here. Every family that was murdered while they slept. Every dream that died with New Eden." Captain Lim Jae-sung commanded the dreadnought New Eden's Vengeance, positioned directly above the Vorth capital city. His ship's weapons had been modified to create specific patterns of destruction, each blast designed to spell out the names of the colony's dead in fire and ruin. "Sir, the Vorth are attempting to communicate," reported his communications officer. "Let them talk," Jae-sung replied. "The time for communication ended 3 years ago." The Vorth transmission played across the human fleet. "Human forces, we propose immediate cessation of hostilities. We offer reparations, territorial concessions, complete withdrawal from all disputed systems." Admiral Sung-min's response was, "Broadcast not just to the Vorth fleet, but across the entire galaxy on all frequencies. This is Fleet Admiral Choi Sung-min of the Terran Defense Force. You destroyed New Eden. You murdered 50,000 civilians, including children. You called us pests and declared your intention to exterminate our entire species. Today, you learn what happens when pests fight back. There will be no negotiation. There will be no surrender. There will be no survivors. You chose extinction when you decided to wage genocide against humanity. The human fleet opened fire. What followed was not a battle, but a systematic dismantling of an entire civilization. Human weapons, refined through 3 years of warfare, cut through Vorth defenses like they were made of paper. Energy shields that had protected the homeworld for millennia collapsed under concentrated human fire. Captain An Mi-sun led the New Eden Memorial Corps in the assault on the Vorth capital. Each soldier bore the name of someone who had died on the colony, carrying forward their memory into this final confrontation. "Remember," Mi-sun told her troops as they descended toward the alien city, "we are not just soldiers today. We are the voices of the dead come to collect what is owed." The capital city of the Vorth Empire burned under precise human bombardment. Every building, every monument, every structure that represented their conquests was systematically destroyed. The aliens who had once commanded fleets that exterminated species found themselves helpless against human tactical superiority. Major Song Kite's bioweapons were deployed across the planet's surface. The viruses, specifically designed to target Vorth biology, spread through their atmospheric systems faster than any evacuation could proceed. Entire cities fell silent as the alien population succumbed to diseases that mimicked the radiation poisoning suffered by New Eden's children. Sergeant Oh Hyun-woo placed his final charges in the heart of the Vorth Imperial Palace. The explosives were arranged to create a memorial visible from orbit, a perfect representation of New Eden's sunrise, the last sight seen by the colony's children before the bombardment began. Commander Park Jin-young's Psychological Warfare Division broadcast the sounds of New Eden's destruction across the Vorth communication network. Every alien on the homeworld could hear the screams of human children, the desperate voices of parents trying to protect their families, the final words of a dying colony. "Let them know what their victims experienced," Jin-young ordered her teams. "Let them feel the same terror, the same helplessness, the same despair." Dr. Yoon-ji made the final preparations for the Starkiller device. The weapon would initiate a cascade reaction in the system's star, causing it to collapse and consume all matter within the gravitational field. It was overkill on a cosmic scale, but humanity had learned that half measures led to future threats. "Sir, device is armed and ready for deployment," Yoon-ji reported. "Are you certain about this course of action?" Admiral Sung-min looked down at the burning world below. Somewhere in those fires were the ashes of alien leaders who had ordered New Eden's destruction. Somewhere in that smoke were the remains of the beings who had called humanity a pest species. "Deploy the device," he ordered. "Let the galaxy understand that some crimes cannot be forgiven." The Starkiller launched from Terra's final judgment, a small probe carrying technology that would rewrite the laws of physics in this system. It would take 72 hours to reach the star's core, but once activated, the reaction would be irreversible. General Jin-woo's Marines landed on the planet's surface to document the Empire's final hours. They found a world in complete collapse, with surviving Vorth experiencing the same terror and helplessness that had consumed New Eden's families. "Sir, we're finding evidence of their other genocides," reported Colonel Hwang So-ra. "Archives detailing the extermination of 14 different species over the past century. Document everything," Jin-woo ordered. "Let the galaxy see what we prevented by ending them here." The New Eden Memorial Corps completed their mission as the planet's capital burned around them. Each soldier placed a small marker bearing the name of their fallen namesake. 50,000 markers for 50,000 dead. A field of remembrance in the heart of the enemy's capital. Lieutenant Minho's fighter squadron swept through the system, hunting down any Vorth ships trying to escape. The orders were absolute. No survivors, no witnesses, no chance for the species to rebuild elsewhere. "Ghost Leader, we have refugee ships attempting to flee the system," reported Lieutenant Park Daeun. "Destroy them all," Minho ordered. "They chose this fate when they destroyed New Eden." Captain Jae-sung's bombardment of the capital created patterns of destruction that spelled out the names of New Eden's dead in letters of fire miles high. Each name burned for exactly 1 hour before the next began. A roll call of the murdered. That took days to complete. The Starkiller device reached its target. Admiral Sung-min stood on his bridge as the readings came in. The star's core was beginning to destabilize, its fusion process corrupted by human technology. In 72 hours, the chain reaction would consume everything in the system. "Sir, we're receiving final transmission from the planet's surface," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." The voice was that of the Vorth Emperor, the being who had personally ordered New Eden's extermination. "Humans, we underestimated your species. We thought you were weak." "You thought wrong," Admiral Sungmin replied. "You called us pests. Now learn what happens when pests unite against their exterminators." The transmission ended as the Imperial Palace collapsed under human bombardment. Dr. Yun Ji monitored the Starkiller's progress. "Sir, cascade reaction has begun. The star will go supernova in 68 hours. All matter in the system will be consumed." "Signal the fleet withdrawal," Admiral Sungmin ordered. "Our work here is done."